Hello, folks. Welcome back to the Britt Kanawha West Hancock Athletics Podcast. Dan Kroll here, April 23rd, 2025, episode 132. Tonight I have four brothers, hopefully ready to give each other a little bit of a hard time on here and tell some good stories. I got Josh, Adam, Nick, and Ben Hartman. These guys were all stellar athletes at West Hancock, gone on to do great things in life. One out in Colorado, the other three are still here in Iowa, kind of spread out a little bit. Went to high school. Nick and I were classmates. Ben and I played football together. Adam and I played football together and just missed being in high school with Josh. So I'm excited to talk about kind of my era of West Hancock sports and see what's going on. So before we get to these guys, this podcast would not be possible without the sponsors. Lots of good money going into the Sanger Legacy Fund. So I want to thank my episode to episode sponsors. That's Jeff and Becky Nielsen, Lehman Family Dental in Clear Lake, Johnson Drainage, owned by Scott and Ryan Johnson, Carlson Drainage of Darren Carlson, Katie's Salon and Tanning in Titonka, Pat Kelly and his new book, K-State's Wrestling Legacy. You can go on Amazon and buy Pat's book. He's a 2025 West Hancock Hall of Famer. Did a great job writing that book, so make sure you check that out. My lifetime sponsors, lots of them. Levi Don Trucking, Window World of Mason City, Doug and Kathy Zool, Pritchard's Auto, Ewing Funeral Home and Monument Company, Triple B's Food Trucks, Swenson's Hardware, Zach and Chris Schlugger, Nick Schmidt, Kelly Real Estate, the Brit Car Truck Bike and Tractor Night Cruises and Mojo Productions, Mike Muth Welding, Stacy and Carrie Gopel, Main Salon, Jason Gardner with Whiffles Hybrids, Brit Seed Company, Deemer Realty owned by Renee Deemer, the Benning family, the Britt Bar and Grill, Trolson Auto Parts, Cliff Howlett, the Britt Vet Clinic, and I have a new one starting tonight, and that's Richard Wubin with B&B Ag Sales. So thank you to all those lifetime sponsors for giving $400, and they're on every episode. And then I got a new category thanks to Ben Hartman. Started this a couple months ago. He sent the $400 lifetime amount to honor Billy Dolman. So you'll see Billy's name on my screen. He's always going to be on there as I call it the honoring legends section. So thanks to Ben for doing that for Billy. And then I got another one of these tonight. I got a message from a lady named Kelly Hartman today and said, Dale wants to talk to you. And I was like, oh crap, I'm already in trouble by Dale for doing something. I said, the statute of limitations, I thought passed on anything we're going to talk about, but here I go. So I called Dale and he goes, how do I get money to that Sanger Legacy Fund? I'm going to do that Billy Dolman category. And so now the Hartman brothers are a part of the Honoring Legends part of the podcast sponsorship. So thanks to Dale and Kelly for giving $400 for the Sanger Legacy Fund. That's like $100 per you. So thanks to Dale and Kelly, and I got to catch up and talk to Dale for a little bit. So it's been a good day. So thanks to the Hartmans for that. Sanger Legacy Fund, like always, people, is for the West Hancock athletics and activities, any community outreach things, scholarships for seniors. So if you want to give or sponsor, you can go to sangerstrong.com and you can get a hold of me if you want to sponsor. Way back when, 50 episodes ago, episode 82, I talked to Ben Muller, and 100 episodes ago in episode 32 was Craig and Bob Eisenman. So make sure you check out those old episodes and see what was going on a couple years ago. All right, fellas, enough of me talking. Let's get some introductions. We will go oldest to youngest. How's that sound? Tell everybody which Hartman brother you are, because not all of you have your actual names on the screen, and where you're at these days, what's keeping you busy, family, job, all that good stuff. So go ahead, Josh.
All right, so I'm the number one Hartman. I'm out in Colorado, Denver area. I work at a company called Resilience Code. I'm the COO of the company. It's a health and wellness company, functional medicine, physical therapy, IV therapy, personal training, neurofeedback, brain mapping, concussion therapy type of stuff. Three kids, been married for 18 years. Three kids. I got a daughter who is involved in volleyball, club volleyball currently, and she's wrapping up her junior year right now. My middle son wrapping up his seventh grade year. He does football and wrestling, and then my youngest is finishing fourth grade, and he does flag football and wrestling right now. So that definitely keeps us all busy.
Adam.
I'm Adam. I'm the second oldest. Number one son though in Iowa, of course. Keep busy with, or I work for. I'm a certified energy specialist for Senex Harvest States. world's largest co-op. And then I farm corn and soybeans on the side. And then got a senior that's graduating this year from Clear Lake, of course. She's going to be going to Iowa University. And then fifth grader, Allie, says she's going to be the first girl in the NFL to play football. She loves tackle football. And then I got a fourth grader, Cruz, involved in everything. So yeah, stay busy chasing them, keeping up the farm, stuff like that.
Nicholas?
I'm Nick. I live up in Buffalo Center, Iowa. I am the Chief Revenue Officer at Next Generation Technologies. We're an IT company for hire. We support a lot of the schools in the area, a lot of the companies in the area. I have a wife of going on 9 years, Emmy. She grew up in Buffalo Center. That's how I kind of ended up back here. And I have twin daughters that are 7, Avery and Tenley. And then I have Rhett, who is 4. And they are into absolutely everything, as you can imagine 7-year-olds and 4-year-olds are. So just got back from gymnastics about 15 minutes ago. So they keep me on my toes. Along with that, I'm on the fire department here at Buffalo Center. I'm the current chief.
Clarifying question, Nick. You were doing gymnastics or your kids were?
My kids were.
Okay, good, good. And we saw Nick last, what was it, Saturday at the Buffalo Center fireman's breakfast. He was whipping
Yep.
up some
Pancake
chocolate
day.
chip pancakes. So yeah. And Chaz, I mean Ben.
I'm Ben, currently living in Janesville, Iowa. Uh, live up here with my wife Chaz. We're going to be going on our 10-year anniversary here in May. 2 kids. Dane is 8 and Drake's 4. Just constantly we're in travel baseball with Dane, and our little pistol Drake is trying to keep up.
All right. Well, thanks, fellas. We're gonna get into some sports here. Talk about growing up in Canawa and all that good stuff. A little pattern here. Josh graduated 01, Adam 03, Nick with me in 05, Ben in 07. So your parents had a grad party to prep for every other year for quite a while. So, but the cool part is you all got to grow up with each other. You're pretty close in age, so there wasn't too big of an age gap in any stretch. So 4 boys, probably a lot of fun stuff going on. So talk about just growing up in the Canal area, things you guys did to entertain yourselves with each other. I'm sure sports was a part of it. Serious injuries and close calls and all that good stuff. What do you remember about growing up in Canal kind of in that late 90s era?
I don't think we had any broken bones.
Not
I
until
broke-
like 7th grade.
Who
I-
was it?
I broke my
both
collarbone.
Oh. I would say growing up in small town was awesome. I mean, we were doing sports since we could get outside and do whatever we could. So, I mean, between playing football in the backyard, 2-on-2, or basketball or baseball, or trying to golf a golf ball into a tire out in the middle of the yard, I think we were always doing something. Canal was only a mile away, so it was easy to get to town, whether it was take your bike or walk or whatever you needed to do. So it was fun.
Our mom always babysat when we were kids, so we always had people at our house. You know, the Penning brothers, we had the Walks that lived a quarter of a mile away. Casey Reuter, the Johnson brothers, Mark and Mike, feeding them white donuts, as Josh and Adam used to call them, that were out in the yard, or force feeding them dog food. Even was it Spangler? He was out there for a little while. You know, we were able to play football almost 6-on-6 at times, because we had so many people involved. On top of that, we had that giant bell that if we got in the field, because Adam and Josh wanted to lose you, My mom would always ring that, say if you couldn't hear that, you were too far away.
I forgot about the white donuts.
Yeah,
Those are powdered sugar.
Mike's gonna appreciate that.
Yeah, Mike Johnson, I specifically remember him.
Oh yeah.
Can't
Protein.
forget Mike, that's for sure. Yeah, he's unforgettable. So I
You
know you
know,
guys. Oh, go ahead, Nick.
and then, later on, our dad ended up building us homemade go-karts, and we'd take those to town, and we had two different racetracks in town that everybody would bring their go-karts or their mopeds and speed around and get in a few wrecks. I think Brandon Morris almost knocked his front teeth out at the farm one time.
Kind of like Josh.
Yeah,
That happened. That happened at elementary school though. So
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
my
and
mom was not happy.
you guys all went to Canawa Elementary, right? Ben, were you trying to think of the timeline? Did you go through Canawa Elementary all the way through as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think my 8th grade year was the first year we moved to Britt.
Yeah, when they shipped all the elementary kids to Britt. Yeah. Yeah. You guys is
Yeah.
carpeted gym in the elementary over there next to the
Yeah.
lunchroom. I always remember going in
Oh,
there.
yeah.
What is this?
Multi-purpose room.
Yeah.
It's still there too.
The same carpet.
Yeah. Yep.
That's gross.
It might have been cleaned a time or two. So
We used to have sleepovers in there. Did you guys ever do that too? They did like the whole class would stay and run around the whole time, and then you'd sleep in the gym and everything in that
The
orange
old
carpet.
school lock-ins.
Yeah, lock
We
it.
always got shipped up to Britt.
Okay. Yeah. Takes you back.
we do those now at our elementary school, and as a teacher, we kind of have to go. Sounds amazingly fun as a kid. As a middle-aged adult, it's like this is stupid. Like
Awful.
7 p.m. to 8 a.m. the next morning, you're there with kindergarten through fifth grade kids. I'm like, no, I'm good. Can't do that very often. So let's get to some sports here, fellas. You all played football. I think all of you run track at some point at least for at least a little while? Can't
Yeah,
remember.
ish.
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 Participated.
Yeah. Nick, just
I also threw
things.
shot put as
Yeah.
well.
I think you all played baseball, and I know three of you wrestled for sure. We won't, get into it just yet, which one of you didn't wrestle, but that'll probably come up at some point. So, uh, you talked about already growing up, it was always doing something outside. What kind of drew you guys to playing sports, or was it just kind of like we go to West Hancock? That's just what you do.
I think it was just the competition aspect. I think like growing up, four brothers were constantly competing, and everybody's trying to be better than the next guy. And
Yeah,
it was-
it definitely it didn't matter if it was Monopoly or Life or baseball in the backyard. We were out for blood.
And it's still like that, I think. When we get together for family get-togethers, we're all competitive, plain and simple, and we all hate losing, but I guess that's part of the West Hancock drive in you, I would say.
Any wrestling matches break out at Christmas this year?
No.
Not with us. It's Adam that always
We're the
wrestles
first
other
two.
people, but he
It's
wasn't.
It's dollar takedowns.
The last time Ben and I wrestled, Ben in the backyard, Ben dislocated his shoulder, so that stopped.
Yeah, you had 10 pounds on me.
That's what you think.
Same shoulder you hurt your senior year, or the other one?
I don't know. I think I was just I knew I was defeated before it started.
Nice.
I kind of like I got a video I could share Ben and Chaz taking Ben down.
Yeah.
Pretty good. It's pretty good.
Show him the second part.
Is that when Ben knew I'm going to marry this woman right here? She's the one.
She was mean that night.
All right, well, let's get some baseball and track stuff. You guys said it was track-ish to a degree. What do you guys remember from being on the track team or running or throwing for Coach Sanger and Coach Hauge?
I would say the only reason I was out for track was because Sanger was the coach, and I wanted to play football, and that was how I stayed involved and you know making sure that he continued to see me. So track wise, I can make you miss in football, but I couldn't run away from you, and that's I sprinting wasn't my thing. So long distance wasn't my thing. So track was just not my thing at all. But these guys, I know Nick was better at stuff than I.
Yeah, it was definitely conditioning for football is what I treated it as. Um, Hard part for my senior year was the year that Sanger had to take a 1 year break from coaching. So even though he wasn't there for the throwing stuff, he was at every meet, and you'd walk over to the side where he was standing by the fence. He'd give you some tips, and you'd go back and throw the next throw. Um, and then Hauge was there, obviously. Um, he definitely helped out quite a bit. Gave us a little goal of throw 48 or state, and he'd buy you a pizza. So was able to do that, and he ended up having to buy me 2 pizzas, I think.
Nice.
Nick, Coach Sanger was actually at most of our practices. He just was like hiding behind the trees behind
Yep,
the
he
home
he
bleacher.
wasn't supposed to be involved, but he was involved.
Yeah. You look over and he'd just kind of be like hiding behind a tree, like, we know you're there, coach. And he
He'd
was
wait
there.
until he'd wait until you got to the parking lot, give you some tips, and then
Yeah. Who took
so
over
he could
for him?
say he what's that?
Who took over for him that year? Hauge was still the assistant. Who was it that stepped in that year? I'm drawing a blank.
I'm drawing a blank also.
Yeah, it was a guy. He wasn't at West Hancock very long. He was there a couple years. Was it Goodrich, the government teacher? No, it was one of those type teachers that wasn't there very long, I feel like, and he was gone. But I could be totally wrong too. But yeah, I don't know. Adam and Ben, what did you guys do in track?
I I ran track my freshman year, and then just wasn't a fan of it. So became a weight boy, and just next 3 years I lifted weights, and that was considered your route for track. You did some conditioning with the team, but then most practices you just went to the weight room and prepared for football. So like Josh, I was only out because Coach Sanger was a coach, and that's what he expected. So that's what you did.
Yep. He'd catch you in about mid-February. See you out at practice in a few weeks, and you're like, "Yep, I'll be there."
Well, my senior year, I think Ben and I both went to state in wrestling, and I think we came back. We had a track meeting that just next week, and he goes, "You guys ready to go on Monday?" So we had a total of 4 days in between practices.
Yeah.
Yeah, I ran the 2 mile, the first event of the entire track meet, and then I gotta sit there and freeze the rest of the 4 hour track meet. I'd sit next to Haugie and just chit chat with him, and there were some long nights there. That was the
Didn't
only
you?
sport. That was the only sport I told my parents I'm like, don't come to. I'm like, it's not fun, and you're gonna watch me run for about 9, 10 minutes, and don't come.
That's it.
Didn't you run against Mitch Horseman in the 2 mile?
Yes.
Probably at one point. I ran a lot against Doug Bauer, RIP.
Oh yeah. I remember, Nick, what you're talking about though, because Coach Sanger was a master at finding extra points to be had at a meet to win a meet or get second or third. And he said, we need one more guy to run the 2 mile because there's only like 4 or 5 kids in the race, and whoever runs and finishes will get us at least a point. And everyone's just kind of like, and then Horseman's like, I'll do it.
Yeah, because it was
And
always fill up. Everybody else was always full for events, and
yeah,
there was only a handful of people that could have 1 or 2 more events. And
yeah. And
I remember
I'll never
Horseman had
give
to run it.
Mitch crap for his time that night because he'd do better than I would, I'm sure. And he got ballsy and did it for the team, but it took a while. And I think he went up to Sanger and said, "I'm not doing that again." He goes, "Don't worry, like you're good." we got the point we needed, and yeah, someone else will take a turn if need be. But yeah, that was. I still remember that Mitch took one for the team that night. So yeah. What about baseball? Talk some Mark Eisman and some West Hancock baseball memories. You guys were all pretty decent athletes there.
I remember Adam breaking his leg.
Yeah, I did. I think that was I think it was my junior year. Well, freshman, sophomore year was Coach Ben Evans, and then went to varsity and Mark Eisman and slid into third base. And I didn't even touch the bag. I was called out, but my cleat caught in the ground and snapped my leg. And yeah, that was a Mama Kelly come out to the field with the minivan and loaded me up and hauled me to the ER, and it
Don't
was
we have?
snapped in half. That was the end of my baseball career.
I was thinking we had the greenish station wagon at that point.
No. I would have crawled off the field if that was the case.
Baseball was probably one of my more favorite sports. I mean, I love Mark was such a good coach, so a coach that you can really like talk to, and he really made baseball fun. And he was just as competitive as the rest of us, and I knew it hated. I mean, West Hancock's not a baseball school, but just for him to like put his time in and see how much he cared about the sport, and that really drove us to. I mean, our senior year we were pretty competitive. We almost made districts. We lost 7-6 against SCMT that went on to sub-state. Uh, we were right there in there with them, and it was fun. That was one of those sports where you could just show up, and I mean everybody had summer jobs and you'd come and it was just fun.
I agree. We were never good. My baseball team, we were awful, but it was always fun and it was always something that everybody showed up for. So, it was always you work all day, you get to practice at 4:30, 5 o'clock, you practice for a few hours, you go home, eat, you hang out with friends, and then you do it all over again. So it was just the thing to do in the summer. And even though we were terrible at it, we were still out there every single day having fun with your friends, your whatever it may be. It was a good time. So I really enjoyed baseball as well.
Yep.
And even having the chance of Johnson's always put the batting cage in their shed. So we'd always go hit at Justin Johnson and Chad Eisman. You'd go at there either after track practice or something. You could start doing batting practice right away, during track season. Um, yeah, Mark was a great coach. The only trouble that I ever had during baseball was playing second base with Steve Eisman, and he was a senior and I was a freshman. He'd sit there and hit line drives at you the entire time, one hop it to you. So it was a good time, but you came home with bruises.
Nick and I had the pleasure of freshman baseball. They didn't have uniforms at the time for us, and it was white t-shirts and gray sweatpants and whatever hat you had at home you wore.
Yep.
And we had essentially Chad was our pitcher. That was about it.
Yep.
Was it the
Andy
first
Halick was
inning?
the coach.
Yeah, first inning of the first game, Chad broke his arm sliding into second. And then it was like I think we had 9 guys was all we had left because
Yeah.
Chad Olson made it one jog lap around the field and he got on his bike and left and we never saw him again. And then Chad broke his arm. Like, I think we have 9 left. And I'm pretty sure there was one game I'm sitting in the dugout while we're on defense. And I'm like, should I be out there, coach? And Andy Halleck's like, no, you're fine. Just stay here. And we maybe won one game. It was brutal. But I still tell people I have a school record for most strikeouts in a row. And, oh, you're a good pitcher. And I said, nope, that was batting. I think I struck out like 30 times in a row that season. So it wasn't good. Right, Nick?
Yeah, it was pretty poor.
We had fun. Andy Halick, though, he got so pissed at us. He's like, guys, stop getting out of the way of the ball. So what he got, like down on his knees, took his shirt off and started telling us to chuck baseballs at him. And I'm like, I'm not
Yeah,
doing
it
that.
was weird.
And he just would take a few in the chest and go, see, it hurts, but I'm not, dead or anything. And we're like, yeah,
That's old school.
yep. I brought that up to Andy before, and he just shook his head. He's like, yeah, that was something. So, but yeah, we
Because he
probably
was still in
ways.
college when he was coaching, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was probably a sophomore in college, came back. He did a good job. He just, no offense to us, didn't have a lot to work with that summer. So, yeah. So, let's get into some wrestling, fellas. Like I said, Josh, Ben, and Nick, you guys wrestled. Uh, Josh disputed my statistics here, but here's the deal.
True.
The 1940s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and early 90s, the Brit newspaper and the stuff I had from Lois De Leon, like match by match perfection when it comes to statistics. And then all of a sudden, Josh and Mark Sanger era comes around, and there wasn't much statistics kept at the school. And the newspapers, like football games where Mark would have 5 rushing touchdowns and 280 yards, the headline would say, like, Wes Hancock wins, and it would say the score, and it would be like, good job, boys. Like it literally had nothing. And so I lost. There's a couple of years, and I'll be out at Mark's house after a football game, and he goes, "You know how many wins I actually have?" I'm like, "I gotta have proof." Mark goes, "I remember them all." I'm like, "That doesn't count."
Yeah.
So, Josh, that we know of, you have more, but the official record until I get more proof is 64-26. But what'd you say you think you have?
I was 109 wins.
109. So
Yeah.
we'll get that fixed at some point. Just gotta.
I know you were over 100 wins. I remember that.
Yeah, I
remember
remember.
that.
Yeah. So there's a handful of years, not even a handful, just a couple, honestly, where there's some missing stuff. And I'm like, yeah, we got to figure that out. But it's just, even just 20 some years ago, we're getting records is not easy if they don't report stuff out. Uh, so Mark won a state title 2001. He's a classmate of yours. Talk about wrestling for Wes Hancock.
Wrestling was awesome. I think we had a tough time filling weights. I think that was our biggest downfall for wrestling. My junior senior year, we had some good kids. We just didn't have enough to necessarily compete with a lot of teams just to fill those weights. I mean, Sanger won state our senior year, and him winning state was like us winning state. I remember being in the stands for that, watching him point up to the crowd and everything, go nuts after he won state. So I think that meant a lot to all of us that went through that with him. Steinlich, he placed at state our senior year. Mark Muth, he qualified for state our junior year. So, but yeah, I mean, we had a lot of good, solid wrestling kids throughout wrestling. But yes, I will dispute your numbers. My biggest, like when I got my 100th win, I remember it distinctly because I beat a kid from Emmitsburg, and that was a big deal to me because they smacked us in the playoffs my senior year in football. So to kind of get back and get it as a milestone victory, that was special to me. Ben was one of our managers actually when I was in wrestling, so he sat there and probably watched a lot of stuff from the sidelines, and I got a picture of him right here if you want me to show it.
No, don't do that.
Yep.
You sure? See that little guy?
Yeah.
Nice.
Uh,
Is that a Muth boy next to him?
Yep. That was Matthew.
Even with
Yeah.
a glare, I'm like, that looks like a Muth.
Yeah. Yeah.
that's Josh's head.
Yeah. Or Nick's.
I remember watching Sanger's championship match on my dad's TV on the fridge at Mark's Pizza in the kitchen. And he was, busy night getting pizzas in and out of the oven. I'm like, Dad, the match is starting. He walked over and he goes, crap, I gotta go turn a pizza or something. He gets over there, turns pizza. I'm like, match is over. You missed it. Like it was like a minute 37 or something like that. I think he pinned
Yeah.
him. And that kid was number 2 in the state from Bedford. It was, I
was
still
awesome.
remember that night. So, yeah. Nick, sorry, Adam, we skipped you. You want to talk about your wrestling career?
Yeah, sure. Not a whole lot. Just I regret it. That is one thing I probably never admitted to brothers. I do regret not going out for wrestling, just seeing their success and uh, success and accomplishments. Accomplishments. They did very well, all three of them, and truthfully, it's probably in our blood. So I do regret that one thing, but I guess I'm the only one that's got hair left, so maybe that's why I didn't go out. I don't know, but yeah,
I was like, Ben still got hair.
Ben still
kind of. He's got more of a comb over. Come on, give him a break.
He never really had to cut weight.
No, he didn't. Neither did Josh. Well, Josh, I remember
Yes, I
Josh.
did.
Josh struggled a lot. I watched that too, and I think that probably pushed me away as he was, nothing against you, Josh, but you're a grump,
Yeah.
during wrestling season, just starving yourself, and it's just like, man, that's not me. So, but hats off to all three of you for that, because it was pretty cool, and I do regret it. So
I always thought you would have been a good wrestler, Adam. I know I give you a hard time, but I remember
I
in
don't.
high school we were giving you a hard time and stuff about anything and everything. So
Yeah.
yeah. Nick, my records for you are 61 and 29, but your freshman season was one of those years where there was little information. So I know you probably had
Yeah, you're wrong.
20 more wins. So
I actually sent this in not too long ago. It was 91 and 53.
you sent that to me?
No, my father asked me for it
Okay.
because he was trying to get it over to Paul Francis.
Yeah.
So
30 wins.
yeah, wrestling was different. Coach Benning told us at one point, the practice was going to be the hardest thing you ever do in your life. Probably still rings true. Especially, Josh, I'm sure you had to do it. Ben, I think the school was gone by then, but running the halls and stairs in the old Britt Elementary,
Mhm.
sprinting up and down doing that, the black flag practices with Francis and Dolman. You had to put the work in. Coach DeLeon was coming in trying to get you the mental aspect of it. That helps quite a bit. Adam, as you kind of mentioned, everybody was kind of a grump during wrestling, especially the guys that were cutting weight. Um, the hard part was you didn't want to hang out with anybody else during wrestling season because they're the only ones that knew what you were going through. You know, guys like Mitch Horseman, Jake Moore, Jordan Reuter. I don't think he ever had to cut weight, but Pritchard, Justin Plum, Andy Pavelka, Darren Carlson. Those guys, we were working out 2, 3, 4 times a day trying to cut weight. When you're cutting over 20 pounds a season, it it drains you. And, you know, like Josh said, they got to celebrate your highs with you. Bad part is you also had quite a bit of lows because you lose a match, you don't have fun cutting weight, but at least it wasn't being a basketball player.
Hey, that was only 1 year.
I was
I
more
got-
getting at Dan.
Before you got on, Nick, I told your brothers I'm going to tell the story of that night in the gym. We tried to get you to make a free throw, and we said we're not
Doesn't
leaving
matter,
until you
man.
make one.
Hey, do you remember having coming to wrestling practice and trying to do our warm-up run?
Yeah, I lasted one day. Yeah. We had 6 a.m. basketball practice, and I said, "Hey, can I come in and practice? I just want to cut a few pounds and be in better shape." And yeah, after about a half hour of the warm up, I'm like, this is stupid. Like,
And that was just the warm-up.
yeah, I'm like and I was in decent shape too. I played football and basketball and was on track, and I'm like, you guys are nuts. I like you guys, but no. Nick, 45 minutes later, you gotta get back to me making fun of you. 45 minutes later, the janitor, Ed DeWall, comes in. He goes, "Guys, I gotta shut this down." We're like, "Oh, we're waiting for Nick to make a free throw." And he's like, "It's been enough. Like, let's go." So
I don't believe it was that long, but
it was long, but Coach Muller, who I said earlier in the podcast, he had an episode with me. He was our middle school basketball coach, and Nick was out for basketball, and it was like, all right, Nick, that kid's made a few baskets. Go foul him.
I was the bruiser.
That was Nick's job to just beat people up out there. So yeah. So Nick, you went to state like you said your senior year, 2005, went 1-2. That same year, Ben went 3-2 and got fourth as a sophomore. Ben, what I have for you, I think your years are a little more complete statistic wise, but I still might be off a little bit because again, a lot of the 2000s, I just didn't have everything. 95 and 32, but you also battled some injuries, especially your senior year, so that cost you a little bit. Does that sound accurate to you?
Sorry, no.
No.
I got my 100th win at state my junior year.
Okay. Yeah. So
So
your guys' era, unfortunately, the record keeping wasn't great, and the Brit News Tribune was not great either at recording everything. So got some work to
that's
do on that end. So
it's no big deal. Appreciate you spending the time looking. I mean, it's not easy to do. We understand that.
yeah. So
Dan, reach out to me.
who has the
Reach out
most
to
wins
me.
though? What's that, Nick?
I think I have a couple packets from when we were all the way from my freshman to junior year
Yeah, I better get my hands
of
on
wins.
those. Yeah. I'll get my hands on those. But who has the most wins then, Ben or Josh?
I
How
do.
much you? I was gonna say Ben probably if he was in junior year, he already got 100. Then he definitely beat me.
But how much of your senior season did you miss, Ben?
About December, I was done.
Yeah. Then you tried to go at sectionals and districts, right? And
Yeah. Uh, yeah, I think I was out for like 2 months and I tried to give it one more go just to try and it didn't go as planned and it is what it is.
yeah, definitely. Um, said Ben, you made it back to state your junior year, 2006. You went 2-3, got your 100th win. You got eighth, and then, like you just said, couldn't quite make it back due to injuries your senior year. How tough was that for you to pill to swallow, not being able to finish how you wanted to that last year?
Uh, I don't know. I just got to a point when I got hurt. And I was like, I was trying to hold on and then I just started losing the guys that I knew I shouldn't have lost to. And it really got discouraging. And it was kind of like one of those things where it's like, I'd rather, I gave it what I could. And I'm like, I shouldn't be losing these guys. And I'm like, it's time to hang it up. I'm like, I wanted to get strong again for baseball. I'm like, it's my senior year of baseball. We had a heck of a team with Willard and Mallen, and we really had a pretty good baseball team coming up. And I thought, I'm like, let me heal for 4 or 5 months, and I'm like, give it a shot at baseball. And after just losing to those people that I lost to at the end of December, I'm like, I was ready to. It wasn't fun anymore after that.
Yeah.
I
Ben,
think one of the
oh,
coolest
sorry.
parts that after I was graduated, I was on to college, but in like '05 is when seeing Nick and Ben at state. That was cool. I still have the T-shirt that says, the packing two lunches, $25. Two, I can't read it anymore. It's fading. Sets of headgear, $50. Two sets of wrestling shoes, $100. Two brothers go to state priceless. So
Yeah,
that was cool.
I remember that. Yeah.
What's actually nice is one of our aunts from Wyoming, she actually gave me one of those shirts that had never been worn.
Oh, nice.
She had it bagged up for the last 20 years.
That's awesome.
So I got almost a brand new one of them. Pretty sure it's a small, so it's never gonna fit me in the world. But
Yeah.
Going back to wrestling, I probably should thank a lot of the people behind the scenes too. There's a lot of community people like I mean my so Sanger won it 2001. So
Yep.
my junior year, I came into the season ranked second behind Mark Kist from Eagle Grove. And you wouldn't believe the people in the community. Like, my mom would make me spaghetti every night before the meets, and I'd take it up to the Britt Food Center and I'd weigh how much that food weighed just to make sure there was no ifs, ands, or buts about making weight the next day. I don't know how many times, like, I think his name is Al DeWard and Jerry. There's a Jerry, both janitors. I'd be knocking on the door at 8:30 at night, be like, "Let me in. I need to check my weight."
Al
And
Olson.
Al Olson, yeah.
Yep.
And
Yep.
I'd be knocking, and they'd be like, "Ben, you can't be here." And I'd be like, "I need to check my weight quick. Can you let me in?" And they'd be like, "All right, but you gotta hurry." And I'd be like, "Okay." So there's a lot of, it was such a community sport too.
We're
That made it helpful too.
we're past the statute of limitations, right?
Yep.
We used to actually go and Brian Benning would give us his keys. He'd tell us, take my truck so it looks like I'm parked there. So that we could go practice on a Saturday and Sunday when we didn't have a tournament on the weekends or going on a Sunday. I remember picking Jake Moore up and we'd go in and on a Sunday and work out. Grab Benning's truck, go up there, take it back, drop his keys off. Nobody was of the wiser, allegedly.
And
Those
besides the
Sunday,
shop, we
those
didn't have cameras in the hallways or anything.
We did not have cameras back then. Now it's
Mr.
different.
Brown's room. Yeah. So,
those Sunday workouts after a tournament were always fun to watch people walk in and see how much weight they'd gained from eating all day and making weight. Mark Muth would gain 15 pounds every single weekend. It was unreal. Chris Halick would gain weight. Uh, they'd come in, they'd put their headgear on, have all their sweats in their face, and just be like, because they were just holding so much water weight and everything. So it
I
was fun to watch
remember
guys come in.
I remember we had Andy Pavelka trying to gain weight in order to make it up to like two weight classes above, just because it was an open weight and we were trying to get a buy. And I'm pretty sure he had to gain 10 or 15 pounds that day. So he was just sitting there chugging water, looked like he was pregnant belly because it was the first time he ate in probably 2 weeks. And
What
yeah,
did he ever just put weights in his pants?
no, that the only person that ever put weights in his pants was Beeve during football weigh-ins.
and the thing with those football weigh-ins, Sanger or whoever, or Benning, Boozman, they would see the weight and they would just add 10 pounds to it anyway to put on the program. It didn't matter. Add an inch,
Three
add
inches
10
and 10
pounds.
pounds. Yep.
Yeah.
Beeve and I were always pretty close. He was number 9, I was number 9, so we always gave each other crap. He'd wait until I weighed in my freshman year, and he goes, "What'd you weigh?" I watched him walk over to the weight rack, grab 2 5-pound weights, and try to shove them in his shorts, just so that he would hopefully weigh the same as me or a little bit more.
Leave. Um, Now, Nick, you talked about being miserable during the season, only wanting to be with wrestlers. I remember in the lunchroom, Chad, Justin, me, Logan would be sitting around, and we see you come walking down with a little Ziploc bag. And we're like, oh crap, Nick's coming. This is going to change the mood here drastically. And you'd show up with like a carrot stick in that bag, and we're like, oh, how's it going, Nick? And you're like, screw you guys. Piss ass. Take about a half a bite of carrot, and you're like, I gotta go.
Yeah, after a while, it's just easier to sit in the hallway and
Yeah,
wait until everybody's done.
yeah. I don't think it ever stopped us from giving you crap, but we were a little fearful you're going to kill us. But yeah, yeah, crazy. All right, let's get to some football here. No offense to you wrestlers, but for me, the fun part. I don't get tired of talking West Hancock football. So, I did a little dive here on your parents and how many football games they more than likely attended. Um, so Josh, your freshman season was 97. Ben's senior year was 2006. So that's literally 10 straight years of having a Hartman playing varsity football. So add in middle school, Dale and Kelly saw, let me see, from 95 to '02, they would have roughly watched 48 middle school football games in Canawa, assuming you played six each season. And since you're 2 years apart, there was never any real overlap per se. JV, you all played 2 years, but never together, like I said. When one was in middle school, there was one playing JV and there was one playing varsity. So 48 middle school games, 56 JV games roughly, and then I counted up 83 varsity games for a total of 187 West Hancock football games your parents more than likely attended and watched. So talk about Dale and Kelly a little bit and the support they gave you guys and all your sports except for Ben's 2 mile races.
Yeah.
Well, and then they went on to watch more games at Iowa Central.
Yeah.
So they were traveling for games for that for the next 2 years after me.
And
So
some Bronco games later
yep.
on. And yep. By the way, Josh, do you have the ring tonight or is that stashed away?
Now I got that stashed. I'm at the office, so I thought about going and grabbing it, but it doesn't really do it justice to see it on Zoom.
Yeah,
I'll have to bring it back sometime, some event or something. Yeah.
better. The wrestling reunion this fall if you guys come back for that, putting that on. So yeah, I still tell people though, Josh, that Peyton Manning watches my podcast because when I did that episode with you, you're like, yeah, dinner with Peyton, and said I'm doing a podcast back in my high school, and he said, oh, I'll check it out. And so right there, that's instant. Like, yep, just tell people Peyton Manning watches this podcast. It sounds
Yeah.
sounds better the way I spin it. So
Yeah, for
yeah,
sure.
yeah. Let's talk some football. What do you guys remember about West Hancock football? What are some things that come to mind?
Well, let's go back to my parents for a
Yeah.
second.
Yep.
Uh, Obviously, we appreciate them more than anything. Um, Everybody knew when they were there because my dad would walk in with that big boat chair, the only padded chair back in the day that he fabricated himself. Um, he brought that to all the wrestling and football games, so everybody knew when they were there. They never missed a game.
No.
So that's incredible. Out of, you said 187 games.
Yep.
It's huge. So
So I mean that's a JV game on Monday, a middle school game on Tuesday or Thursday, and a varsity game on Friday.
yep.
That's 3 out of 5 nights every week for 6 to 10 weeks out of the fall. It's pretty cool.
Mom actually missed one game of my senior year. She was in the hospital for, I think she had some kind of surgery and she had to listen to it on the radio. But I remember, I think it was against Eagle Grove our senior year. And that was a game I had 2 picks. So she missed it, but she heard it. So it was, yeah, no, they incredible support system. That's all we can say about that.
That's your senior year against Eagle Grove. Wasn't that the one where it almost got rained out for like 3 hours?
That's my junior year.
Junior year.
Yeah, we didn't start that game. It had playoff implications, and it didn't start till like 11 or 12 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
And
And
that's
then
when
we
you
finally played.
had a pick in that game too.
Yeah. Well, that guy was so damn tall. He kept throwing it up to him, and I finally one like tipped and fell in my lap, basically. So,
Yep.
if you call that a pick,
And that was
right?
well, that was the game-winning pick. That's when it was done finally.
Yeah, maybe.
But I remember sitting there. Everybody was sitting in vehicles till for 4 hours, and then
Yeah.
you finally got to go to the stands and look around. And you're like, oh, the Whitties are still here.
Yeah.
Cody and Tyler, or the Eismans are still here, but it was a slim crowd by 11 o'clock at night.
My dad was still cleaning up from the restaurant that night, and I was just putzing around. He goes, I just heard on the radio that game hasn't started yet. Do you want to go over there? And what's 30 some minute drive? Where was that Eagle Grove also? Or yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, 30-ish minute drive, whatever it is. And he goes, you want to go? So we didn't even go over there until 10:30 at night and drove over there. And yeah, you could hear everything because there was just kids weren't running around and there wasn't the stands completely full. It was weird. I remember that. So yeah. Record wise, Josh, this is, I know you guys didn't play varsity all 4 years, but the 4 years you were in high school, your team, the varsity teams for Josh went 34-9. Adams went 32-9. Nick's and mine, same class, we went 32-7, and Ben's went 36-6. Josh, you saw the playoffs 3 times, Adam 3, Ben 3, and Nick and I twice, our sophomore and junior years. Um, when I think of like Adam, that Dyke New Hartford game sticks out to me. Your last game, the one in the dome, that one's still like we lost that game 6 different ways, and we shouldn't have any of those ways. That was a weird one. I just remember we found one of in Coach Sanger's vault. They had a mic'd up tape where he had a microphone on, and you could hear everything he was saying during the game. And those last couple minutes, there were some things said that I'm like, yeah, he better stick that one far back in the file cabinet.
Yeah, we got beat on that game plain and simple by by pass coverage. Coach Sanger was always, and I still believe it to this day, is if you can't beat the team running on the ground in high school football, you shouldn't be playing football. And and we didn't cover the pass coverage. I mean, we weren't taught that because we were a running team and plain and simple. And that team, they came out, they had, I mean, I was 5'10" guarding a 6'5" wide receiver. That just don't work. And they beat up on us with the pass game. So that still sticks in my head to this day. Me and T-Bone talk about it a lot. Just what we could have done different. But it is what it is. And yeah.
And not many teams passed the ball back then. Most teams were, if they passed the ball, it was still like 75-25 run pass combo. Those
Yep.
guys they were more probably 40-60, and 60 was the passing. They were much
Oh
more
yeah.
balanced, and we weren't used to that.
Yep.
That team, we would have played Pekin that next week. I watched that game the next week. Dyke ran on Pekin for like 350 yards. I'm like, jeez, if we would have played them, we would have run for 500. I don't know if
Yep.
we would have gotten Akron Westfield in the finals. They were pretty good, but would have been in the finals at least, I think. So, yeah. Josh, you already talked about your last game, that 40-0 loss to Emmetsburg, but that was an anomaly. You guys were 9-2 that season, quarterfinals, and had a good year. We played Ballard in the first round of the playoffs. Now you look
Yeah.
at it, we're 8-man level in terms of an enrollment, and Ballard I think is a 4A school this year. So
Yeah. When I was in high school, we were 2A
yeah,
through my senior year. I don't know when it switched. Did it switch your junior year to 1A, Adam?
I think so.
yeah,
I think it
that
was
was
about
too.
that.
Yeah. So um we lost to Emmetsburg twice my senior year. We lost to them on homecoming, and then we lost them at home again in the first or the second round of the playoffs. So you know, those kind of, it's unfortunate that those are the memories that you kind of hang on to because there's so many other good ones that happened as well. But those are the ones that obviously come up more than the other ones. I remember being hurt at, gosh, where was that at? Battle Creek, Ida Grove, and it was a 3-hour trip there, and sprained my ankle. Had to sit there on the sidelines, freezing, because it was raining that whole game. And then the next week, Adam actually got to dress, and he may have been dressed before that, but he played for me. So getting to coach him from the sidelines was pretty neat too. And then I won't. I'd be remorseful if I didn't throw in the first game I ever had in seventh grade. We get done, and it was either Coach Sickles or Coach Miller. I don't remember which one was seventh, which was eighth, but they're talking to us in the locker room down in Canawa, and all of a sudden the door swings open, and here comes little Ben, and he's like, "Josh, are you gonna take a shower here or at home?" And I'm like, "At home, man." And Coach Sickles or Miller, he just turns and looks at me. He's like, just starts cracking up laughing, and I'm like, "What the? I guess you're just gonna help yourself in here."
Ben,
Was he wearing his moon boots?
It was I was probably ready to go home. Are you gonna ride your bike home or are you gonna ride with us?
Uh,
I was gonna ask for a little background and context there, but okay.
yeah, I don't know. That was. I mean, I talk with buddies like Brent Thompson, Jason Stein, like Mark Sanger, Mark Muth, those guys, and the times that we bring up when we're like reminiscing, going back through stuff, it's not necessarily the times that we were playing football. It's all the times that leading up to the game. Hey, what we do after practice, what we did, hanging out before the game, the stuff in the locker room. Those are the things that stick out in my mind. Is just the stuff you basically did screwing around, the memories you created doing that, somebody getting hurt, falling out of the shower because they're chasing somebody else, those type of things. So I remember more of those type of things than actual events that happened during a football game, honestly.
Mm. Coach Sanger ever come into the shower to talk to any of you and like, why couldn't you have just waited like a minute, coach, and ask me out there? Like you just needed to tell you something right then and there, ask you a question. I'm like, what? All right, I guess we're having this conversation right now. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Nick, you and I were classmates. This I didn't put this question in here. One of your brothers must have, but they want to know about your left tackle senior season 2004. Talk about how good he was and
He was terrible.
how you would have probably only had like 100 some yards rushing that season without him.
I preferred to do 344 dive instead of 245.
Schmitty on the other side. Yeah.
Just for the reason that Smitty was on the other side and
No, it was
was
Swenson. Tyler Swenson was the other
Tyler
tackle.
Swenson, he could make a hole. The left tackle was terrible.
Yeah. Well,
So
I looked pretty good when we were playing North Central Manly, and their D tackle was 117 pounds across from me. I'm like, well, this is not going to be a
that's
tough night.
one thing that kind of stunk about our senior year is we played what, 2 full games?
And they were at the end of the season against good teams, and we're like, oh
Yep.
crap.
Otherwise, I remember distinctly that there was multiple times that we were told you get one series after half.
Yeah.
Because we were so far up.
Yeah.
I mean, our last game of the year was Clarksville,
Janesville.
so where Ben lives.
70.
We were 71-3 or
Oh,
6.
they didn't score. We shut them out.
Yeah, we got one series after the half, and Sanger said, "You guys can go whatever position you want."
Yep.
So I'm pretty sure you played linebacker, Dan.
Yep.
We had Chad Eisenman playing nose guard. I was defensive end. I mean, when you're playing teams that couldn't compete, it got a little rough.
Yep.
But I mean, it also got some of the younger guys experience. I think that's why they were so good the next couple of years. Ben got to play
More
as a
than we did.
sophomore.
Yeah. Yep.
Because I remember, was it a 2-point drive or a touchdown that I led block for you, Ben?
Yeah, I don't know. I remember my sophomore year, I got thrown in there against Garner on punt return. I'm 110 pounds on a punt
Choking well.
return on varsity, and that I caught that ball on a punt return, and I just got clocked. I mean, this guy must have weighed like 250 and ran a 4.240.
At least that's what it felt like.
Yeah, and Justin Johnson came up to me. He's like, "Yeah, you take that," and I'm like, and then I go over to Sanger, and he's like, "Why didn't you fair catch it?" I'm like, I was so scared to catch the ball. I couldn't raise my hand.
Sanger seemed to like to do that during the Garner game of just throw people in random spots. Because I got thrown in as split end my junior year. He came up to me and said, "You're going in as split end." And I go, "I've never played that position." He goes, "Just ask the tackle what to do and hit somebody."
Block. Yeah. You're not getting a pass thrown at your way anyway. So
Well, actually, I
the
did get
Garrigan
some
game.
passes that year.
Yep. Well, the overtime of the Garrigan game, that was a big one.
Yep.
We got to go back to Garner, our senior year, real fast, Nick. What do you remember most about maybe an extra point in that game or anything?
Nothing.
Nothing. Did you cost Garner $800 in band equipment or anything that season?
It's not my problem.
Yeah. It was the kids' fault. So what was it? They scored late. They kicked it off to Chad. Chad ran it back like 90 yards for a touchdown. So their band is
Right.
like starting to get ready to go out for halftime. They
Yep.
got to back up. Nick actually made an extra point, and the kid with the tuba runs over, and tries to catch it in his tuba and it shatters the thing. And every game after that, whenever Nick would go out to kick an extra point, all our parents would start chanting tuba. And Nick did not like it, I don't think, after, no, he was pissed. Every week he was like, shut up. Yeah,
It was never fun.
no. It was fun
So
watching to see where that ball would go sometimes, extra points. So, but, and then Ben, yeah,
most of,
you were oh, go ahead, Nick.
most of the time we didn't need them. So
No, well, I could have run for 2 point conversions against some of those teams, some of those games. So, yeah, I wish I would have. I probably could have that year. But yeah, so Ben, you're a sophomore our senior year. So you're junior year '05. Jake Moore, David Smith, senior year, Mike Johnson, you guys made it to the Dome in the quarters, lost to Valley of Elgin. And then your senior year, 11-1, you guys won the district title again, made it to the semis and lost to was it IKM Manning or no, just IKM back then, 14-6. What do you remember about again what Nick said? I think a lot of your success got to go to that class of '05 for, letting you guys play half of our games. So
No, no, that definitely helped. I still remember my senior year, we just beat Newell Fonda, and it was the Fog Bowl
yeah.
in the quarters. And I remember sitting outside on the benches outside before you walk in the locker room. I took my shoes off and I threw my cleats. I said, time to trade them in for some turf shoes. And that was, I mean, walking out of the dome, it's such an experience. I mean, walking out, seeing the crowd. I mean, there's nothing better than, I mean, playing in the cold all year and then finally getting that one opportunity to walk out of a crowd of a dome. I think my junior year we walked out of the garage doors, and that was pretty cool. My senior year we walked out of the tunnel, and just seeing the fans, that was a big it was one of those opportunities that I'm glad we got to experience.
What do you guys remember about each other's football careers? Being just a couple years apart, you had a little overlap there. Maybe one of you was dressing varsity while the other was, playing in the game. Younger guys watching the other guys play as middle schoolers while they're in high school. What do you guys remember about each other?
I remember.
watch. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I remember, like Josh said earlier. Back then it was an honor to dress as a sophomore, and now they dress basically the whole team. But it was pretty cool to. I think there's five sophomores that got to dress. I was one of them, and when Josh got hurt, I was his backup, so I felt pretty honored and big shoes to fill. He's a senior, and here I'm just a sophomore trying to fill his shoes and playing with all his buddies. So that was pretty cool. And hardest hit I ever took was my sophomore year. We were playing Belmont down at Belmont Clemmy. I was on defense. Josh was laid up and made a tackle, and I got kicked in the head by Mark Sanger. And it was the absolute hardest hit. I still remember it to this day. I swear I blacked out for a little bit. But it was cool. I mean, something different. A lot of people don't get to experience that. Filling the shoes of a older brother. So yeah, pretty cool.
I remember watching Josh and Ben. They were shifty. Josh's favorite player growing up was Barry Sanders, and it was like you were watching that, maybe not as fast.
He was lightning
Shifty.
fast.
Not quite.
Ben was the same way. He could make people miss. Um, just they could stop and change directions so quickly. Adam, especially on defense, when you kind of heard the smack of pads, you kind of assumed Adam was in getting the tackle because you played Rambler, didn't you?
Oh,
Yep. So he was always going to the strong side, and it seemed like every time there was that big crack of the pads, he was in the middle of it. So it was cool to watch. I didn't get to watch as many of Ben's games his senior year because obviously I was gone at college and gone every other Saturday. But when I could make it back, it was fun. I was back for the Fog Bowl. Couldn't see much, but I was there.
Yeah. What did Orrin Harris say on the radio? It was the best play I've never seen, or something like that.
Yeah.
Willard's big
Oh,
interception
it is fun.
return. Yeah, I was listening to that at
Yeah,
Central, and I was like, "Ugh." Like they can't even tell you what's going on because they don't know what's going on. That was nice.
right. I think Brady Wilson threw a last minute, like 30-yard play to Tyler Callstorp that really kept the drive going. And I think that's what won us the game. Like, I still talk to John Mount. I'm like, man, I'm pretty sure they had the upper hand on us that game. And I don't know how we pulled it off, but it was fun.
Yeah.
I remember being a manager and walking out to the team huddle with our little trailer and Mark Sanger and Steinlich and Muth. It'd be like, throw a water bottle in their face and then hit it out of my hand. I'm like, come on, guys. I'm not doing nothing wrong. And like uh they would just be in the mode and I'd just try to be giving water and it'd be no appreciation.
I'm gonna make sure Mark watches this one. This will be good.
It's weird that, 20 years later, Josh was getting denied by Peyton Manning.
Yeah, I was a professional water boy.
Um, Josh, when I did that podcast with you, man, like episode 49 or whatever it was, you talked about you walked into the meeting room or something once and they had gotten a hold of your Wes Hancock highlight tape or a game
Yeah,
or something. Remind
yeah.
me
So
about that.
we, you know, I don't know how when they switched over to recording that stuff on DVDs or whatever, but we had a VHS tape. So I took it to the video guys and I'm like, hey, can you guys break this down or put this on DVD so I can get it to my buddies? And they're like, yeah, we'll do it. What number are you? And I said, well, I'm number 30, whatever it was. And then 2 weeks later is on a Saturday morning, and the head athletic trainer comes in and he goes, hey, they're asking for you in the team meeting. I'm like, what? I'm never invited into these things. Why would I be going to this meeting? So I went in, sat down, and sure enough, they start playing every day I'm hustling, and then it shows my face, and then all the crowd just or all the players just start going nuts, and they got to see my 12 highlights from the season or whatever it was, and then yeah, but yeah, it was pretty cool. I mean, you have some guys say that was awesome, didn't expect that out of you, and some guys say we would have stomped you guys, but whatever. I'm like, you're talking crap to a guy that never played college ball, never played professional, whatever. I mean, like, thanks, bud. I get it. Yeah, you're better. But yeah,
They're like, that was 2000. That's the wing T. What is your high school run now? Still the wing T. Would have wanted any other way.
if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, I drove my golfers home from a JV meet last night, and a couple kids were like, "You go up to Britt games still?" And I said, "Yeah, playoffs for sure." And every once in a while, Rick Sanger and I will road trip up. He goes, "I saw a picture of your guys' jerseys. Aren't you guys pretty good? Like you go to the dome?" I'm like, "Yeah, we've been there a lot lately." Those jerseys look like old practice jerseys. I said, "Isn't it great?" Like
Yeah.
I told Mark 2 years ago, they got new white pants with red stripes on the side. And he goes, "Do you know how much crap I caught from people for those red stripes? Like, that's too fancy for West Hancock football." That's what I love about the program is just nothing fancy, nothing showy, just hard-nosed football. Look where it's
Yeah.
gotten us. It's been fun to keep up on. So, yeah. What are like Coach Sanger, Coach Perkins stories any of you guys have about those guys or things you want to talk about them about quick?
I remembered one thing, especially about freshman year. Dan, you were probably playing line for me. Um, Coach Sanger, we'd just come out of junior high, and I always like sidestepped for 245 dive just to make sure that I didn't run into Chad. He made us run that play probably 15 times in a row
Yep.
in the middle of varsity practice. and just kept doing it and doing it. He took the time to make sure that you're going to get this first step right. It didn't matter that we were the freshman group that were playing.
Yep.
It was, we're doing this.
That was the
And
first.
I always thought that
practice.
was
Yep.
pretty cool.
Yeah, legitimately the first day of high school practice, and we were terrified.
Yep.
And I bought new cleats, and that was the first day I wore them. So I just remember my feet hurting so bad, and he wouldn't let us stop running 245 dive until you guys got that right. And I'm like, my feet have to be bleeding by now. I was hurting so bad. But yeah, he literally was like, stop doing that, and his time after time. I just remember that freshman year. Ryan Johnson, Taylor Vanden Boom, some of those like all Americans in college, we'd be getting ready for lineman drills and you'd just be going, oh crap, someone's got to trade me spots. I'll give you $20 to trade me spots so I don't have to line up against Ryan Johnson or Taylor. It was just like practices were way harder than games a lot of weeks. Like you get done with the Tuesday or Wednesday practice and you're like, I am miserable. And you get done with the game on a Friday night, you're like, that wasn't too bad. So, yeah.
I remember Coach Sanger. I was at track practice, and it was shortly junior year. I had just gotten. I borrowed John Schubert's ID and went down and got a tattoo. And he saw that tattoo, and he comes up to me and he starts rubbing it, and it's brand new, so it is already hurting. But he sat there and rubbed it. He goes, "Is that real? Is that real?" And I was just like screaming in my mind. But yeah, that was one of the funnier moments that I think he just bit his tongue, bit his cheek, and kind of walked off after that. But yeah.
I just remember we were watching game film in his office, and people would come in and say, Mr. Sanger, can I get a pass? Mr. Sanger, can I get a pass? Mr. Sanger, can I get a pass? And finally, they'd just walk away. And he would turn to us and be like, I could hear him the whole time. He just
I
liked to
don't
mess with
I don't
people.
know how many times I had to ask him if I could get a pass, and next thing you know, we'd be getting caught playing ping pong on the stage.
Yeah.
And he'd walk up and he'd be scared to death. And then he'd just like look at you and just turn around and walk away.
Did you ever play him in ping pong?
I probably could have took him.
No.
No.
That and badminton for some reason.
You wouldn't have played him. You would have participated in the game with him, and as he was just destroying you in any table type of game.
I don't know. Me, me, Dave Smith, Riley Wilson's dad, and Doug Don. We got some pretty serious battles. I can't think of Riley Wilson's dad's name, but
Dave.
Dave.
Yeah.
He was probably one of the better ping pong players in Britt.
Well, Ben used to come over to my house with Dave Smith once in a while when we had the church house, and we had ping pong. And David and I, man, neither of us wanted to lose to each other. It'd be 2 a.m. Be like, we got to be done. Like, even as a 16-year-old, I'm like, I'm tired. I gotta go. I gotta go to bed.
Right?
Yeah, a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But,
I just go ahead, Adam.
I'd probably say like just the passion that Coach Sanger had, or the drive he had on all of us kids. I mean, you know, you talk to a lot of people, you get around town to town, and they're like, "Oh, you're from West Hancock." Yep. You guys must have water or football in your water. It must be in the water. And it's like, no, just, you know, Sanger had a way of taking a group of kids, you know, classmates, non-classmates, you get along, you don't get along. He had a way to take that and turn it into a team that worked together and just, you know, just had that drive and that, you know, you hear stories of other kids in high school and what they did, and you're like, holy shit, if we would have done that, we would have been off the team, or, you know, there's just a lot of things, just the heart that he connected with everybody. It's pretty heartfelt and touching, I think.
Well, and then you got other coaches like Hagen and Perkins, that and when Muller was there, Benning was there, the passion that they had for the game as well. I mean, it was huge. Fink being there every 6 a.m. every day during the summer for lifting, and then Gopal later on. I mean, just having that opportunity to even be there. Adam used to go to driver's ed and drop me off to go lift because, well, we live in Canawa. We're gonna get to Britt. I got one chance. So I mean, Perkins. Everybody says he was always so serious. Man, he had some dry humor to him,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
and you never knew if he was actually being serious or just sarcastic. It was until you actually could maybe catch him smirking. You weren't sure if you messed up or if you did something right.
Mhm.
Nick, do you remember the conversation Sanger had with us when Benning left and he was thinking about asking Perkins to come back? It was like you, me, and Chad and Justin, the captains here. Benning's leaving. What do you think if we ask Coach Perkins to come back? And we're like, yeah, like,
I
yeah.
didn't know it was an actual conversation. I
No,
thought it
it
was
was
already
just like
done.
a formality, but he just
Yeah,
was talking to us. He's, what do you think? We're like, well, do you think we'll say no to that? Like, come on, Coach. Yeah, we had him for just the 1 year.
yep.
Adam, I don't think you had him at all, did you? Let me see.
Gene, yeah,
Yeah,
I had Perkins.
90, 2000, just maybe 99, because Benning was there for a handful of years.
Yeah, I think I had. Well, it was probably yeah when Josh was a senior
Yeah, so
or
maybe you
junior or
did.
whatever. Yep, I think he coached me 2 years. I think it was.
Okay.
Yep.
Yep. And then Ben, you would have had him all but one because he came back in '04. Um, so your
Yeah,
freshman year would have
probably
still been
not
Benning.
my freshman year.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah, that your freshman year was the year we were 9-0 somehow magically, and we only won every game by a point or a touchdown or a field goal.
right.
Stop somebody on a 2-point conversion, and Benning was so mad at us he would whisper scream. He couldn't even yell at us for real.
Yeah.
So mad. He's like he's whispering, but I've never seen somebody so mad before.
It was
Yeah.
always funny. You could tell who wasn't in a good mood that day when you had your ankles taped
Yeah,
because it all depended on the tightness of how.
yeah,
A lot of times people were taking their shoes out bottoms of their tape because it was so tight that
yeah.
their feet were turning purple.
Or if Coach Sanger would be taping your ankle, but he'd get distracted talking to somebody else, and it's like right here.
All of a
Was,
sudden, you'd have a cast on your foot.
Yeah. And your
was
toes would
it,
be purple.
Dan, was it your senior year after they started taping ankles every practice?
Yeah, because Justin Johnson got his ankle rolled.
Yeah. All I can remember was like I kept switching lines. I'm like, I want Boozman to tape my ankles.
He was the
Usman
best.
probably taped about three-fourths of the ankles, and everybody else tried to not go to Sanger or
Yeah. Boozman was the ankle taper. He knew what he was doing.
Yeah.
yeah,
I don't know if
I,
Perkins ever taped ankles. I don't remember him
no,
taping anyways. No.
nope. I remember Muller doing it for a little while, and he didn't seem comfortable.
Yeah. Yeah. Boozman was the man for a lot of that stuff. I've told Boozman many times I'll never forgive him for my first real interaction with Coach Sanger. I needed different shoulder pads my freshman year. Probably the same day we were out there running 245 dive 15 times in a row. My feet were bleeding. I'm like, these don't fit. And he goes, go, Coach Sanger's walking down the hall. Go get his attention and tell him you need different ones. I'm like, oh, I can't believe you're going to do this to me. So I'm walking behind him, Coach Sanger, nothing. Coach Sanger, like Nick was saying earlier, just talking louder and louder. And finally, the third time, I felt like I screamed at him. He turned around and he goes, what the hell are you yelling at me for? And I'm like, oh, I'm dead. Like, scared the crap out of me. And I'm like, thanks, Boozman. Like, you could have just asked him for me and not terrified me and made me not want to come back the next day. But it all worked out. So, yeah. Any other teachers or anybody that you guys remember as we're kind of wrapping this up here? Any teachers that you guys think of when you think back on your time at Britt and Kanawha?
I
Yeah, I
think
mean,
I think you
go-
can't forget Paul Hauge.
No.
I think he had a connection with the students too. He just doing like FFA. I mean, we'd be out at Sanger's house with the pigs every year. And that scared me to death when Sanger would walk into his own building. We're checking on the pigs. But Haug was always just one of those people that tried to take care of you on the side too.
I'd probably say back to junior high football. Coach Sickles and Coach Miller, they both kind of started out the process for all of us. But more than anything, probably Coach Mallen, Sean Mallen in baseball. Like he was a good coach. I think he still coaches. I think he still does PE in junior high or elementary, middle school or something like that. My kids love him, and he was a really good coach, little league coach for us. I remember that to this day. Didn't have a lot of success, but he taught us the basics and fundamentals of everything, and it was still good. Still think he's pretty cool.
yeah,
His
I remember he
brother
always
lives
came
down
out with.
here. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I remember he always came out and he had pliers on his belt, still wearing work boots. Literally came straight from work to do T-ball
Mhm.
and still put the effort in.
His daughter Sarah lives down here south of New Virginia, and they're in our like youth soccer program. And I talked to Sean at the Hall of Fame, and he goes, "What's going on next Saturday down there, Dan?" I'm like, "I don't know, not much." He goes, "My daughter wrote me into helping coach 4-year-old soccer or 5-year-old soccer, whatever it is." I'm like, "Oh, you're gonna do a good job of that, Sean." He goes, "I don't know what I'm doing." I'm like, "Oh yeah, you do. You'll be fine." So he's down this way every so often, seeing the grandkids. So yeah. Um, for me, you guys, it'd be Miss T. You
Yep.
can't not talk about Miss T. She helped me edit the book, but even before that, it was just such a great teacher and a great person. You'd go talk to her. You'd come home for homecoming or just a game or home to see your folks on the weekend. You can stop in at the school. That's one of the people you go to every single time. Just go see Miss T. And she's still doing her thing. I went in there last year. It was actually for Beeve's services that weekend after when Beeve passed. I stopped into the school to say hi to her, and she was working with kids on a paper. And she goes, "Oh, Mr. Kroll, good to see you. I'll get with you in a little bit." And she spent 20 minutes working on a paper with a kid. It was like it didn't matter. Like the only kids that matter in the moment are her current students and helping them get better at their writing. So that always stands out to me.
Mrs. Sanger, she was awesome, of course. Uh, Mr. Grangenet, I don't know if you guys ever got to be with him. He was a
Yep.
cool guy too. He was a really cool guy.
Yeah.
Mr.
Pals.
I was gonna say
Balls. It's
balls.
Paul's as in balls. Don't you remember that?
Don't
Oh,
you
that's
forget it.
Yep.
balls and
You'd
balls.
you'd look up at the clock and he'd be flicking you off.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Or doing other things he shouldn't have been.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
You'd have to take a page of notes per class, and in the middle of it you could say, "Mr. Pauls, I know you're not effing reading this."
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
He did
Hey
stuff
guys,
that I could never get away with in the classroom right now. Let's put it that way. I like my paycheck too much.
yeah,
I'd say
Well, he
Peg Eisman too. You know, you'd
yeah,
come in, you'd show up late to school 5 minutes, and she'd just, "Oh, don't worry about it. Get to class. I won't mark you absent." And just the sweetest of all. You know.
or you forget your lunch check for the fourth time in a row, and she's like, "Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
I know you're good for it."
Mr. Perkins used to give us quizzes, and he'd have all the answers up around the outsides of the room. And for some reason, we'd take a quiz in the dark, and then he'd be like asking the questions, and then he'd be like just looking around. Then all of a sudden, you look up, and he's laser pointing at the answer. So that was always funny. I'm glad the statute of limitations was brought up, by the way.
Yeah. It's passed. It's been long enough.
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you got Fink and Boozman and Muller. We
Benny.
used to Benning
Yeah.
Muller. We used to junior high. Dan, were you in my class when we'd tie a fishing line between the chairs to
Yep.
try to make him trip? and he just played along. And he'd every day he'd be looking around, which aisle is it going to be in?
I played golf with him this last year at the Dave Fink Memorial outing, and we were in the cart together all day, and I'm like, it's pretty cool. Like, not maybe everywhere does your former eighth grade football player, basketball player, and social studies student 20 some years later playing a golf tournament with their teacher. It's just kind of cool bonds we made in Britt and Kanawha. Yeah, we
Yeah.
talked about that quite a bit. It's pretty neat.
That's what I was going to say. I mean, that's what's different, I think, about the West Hancock community is, and how Coach Sanger kind of brought it all together was like just off of what Adam said. It's that sense of pride for your community, for your town, for your county, those type of things. Yeah, like where I live now, it's my daughter goes to one of the bigger high schools. She doesn't know 90% of the kids she's going to graduate with. In high school, you know every single person that's in your class at least. And people don't jump teams and try to create super teams or go to high schools because they're getting recruited. You go to Brett West Hancock because that's what you do and that's where you want to go. So I think it's always just been like that town mentality of it's us versus the world. And I think that's a prideful thing to have. So I think I would assume that that's still how it is today with the kids. Like Adam, your kids growing up in that, I'm sure that they're like, I'm from West Hancock, that type of just pound your chest type of thing. But I think that's what's cool about Britt and West Hancock and Canawa and all that. So
I'd say it's a little bit almost everybody had second or third families. I mean, how many times, Ben, did you go over to Jake Moore's house and do you need something to eat? Yep, you'd stay for supper. Same here. I mean, we'd end up at Justin Johnson's house, Chad Eisenman's house. We'd be there for 6, 8, 10 hours. And we'd end up at Muth's house. All of us did because they had like 12 kids. But I mean, didn't matter what we were doing. It was end up at Horseman's and hey, you guys need something to eat. They'd take care of you like you were one of their own. So even in Canawa, it was a little bit like that. Still think that commercial of do you know where your kids are at 10 o'clock at night were
Yeah.
probably my parents.
And a lot of times it was just everyone just like you were saying, Nick, like, do you guys need to eat? It was more just like I'll eat some of your food today and you'll come eat some of my food tomorrow and it all
Yep.
balances out and no one cares. It just everyone it was a cool place to be and everyone you could tell where people were, where their bikes were out in the yard and we're really making ourselves sound like we're old people already, but it was
no
true.
kidding.
We kind of were at that tail end of that generation before cell phones got more popular. Like I had a little tiny flip phone our senior year and I was like, this thing has a calculator on it. And we were like, wow. And just it felt like shortly after we got out is when things kind of, I don't know,
Well,
kids are more inside creatures and not as social. And we were kind of right at the end of that. So
Ben and I shared a cell phone for what, 2 years? We were supposed to anyway.
I don't. I played Snake. That's about all I know.
Well, nobody else had a cell phone, so you had to memorize everybody's number.
yep. Justin Johnson's home phone was 843-3475. I still remember that to this day. 'Cause
Sorry if Scott and Tammy get phone calls now.
Ryan lives there now.
Oh,
Ryan's wife. So
Perfect.
what's the area code? Is it 641? Yeah.
mm-hmm.
641-843-3475.
Call them.
Ryan Johnson. Johnson Drainage. I'm just helping out one of my sponsors, guys. So. All right, fellas. Well, like I said, we're middle-aged and old, so it's probably a good time to wrap it up and get ready for bed. Nick probably has some work to do tonight still. My last question. Out of all the Hartmans, you got to work under your mom's tutelage in this department. Who was the best at sewing? And we already know the answer to that, right, Nick? Yeah, Nick was a fantastic sewer back in the day. What did we take, like freshman level home ec as seniors and
Yeah.
some buddies, and Miss Trolson was like, "Got to do some projects," and we're sitting there just finding the easiest thing to do, and Nick's over there making quilts and stuff. We're like, "Geez, he's
No, it
good."
was a bag. That was the class that we would literally look for a different cabinet to put Cal Schuler in so he could hide. And she'd be like, "Where is he?" And all of a sudden he'd pop out.
No, but we'd be messing around as like, but Nick would be over there getting his work done. Like he's
Whatever.
making doilies for the toilet. He's good. We'd always make fun of him for that. Yeah, so we already know the answer. Nick's the best sewer in the
That's fair.
so. Well, fellas, I appreciate you guys coming on real quick here. My next podcast next week, I got John Mallen, so one of Ben's classmates and good buddies. John and I went to church together growing up and had a lot of good times together. After that, I still got to hammer down a date, but I got Gary Emmert and Abby Stamp. Gary was the state championship coach on the 81 boys golf team. His daughter Abby is one of the head assistants for Iowa women's basketball, so they're going to come on and do an episode. Then I got Kennedy Kelly, and then I got Paul and Connor Sonius, and then Jesse Barker. And then this summer, I'm doing a Mark's Pizza alumni episode. We're going to get some of my parents' former employees on there and talk about some Mark's Pizza stuff. So, fellas, I always leave this last part open for you. If you're like, crap, 20 minutes ago when we were talking track, I forgot to mention this or that or whatever. Any last minute shout outs or last minute stories, things you guys want to throw out there for the people?
I'm sure I forgot a lot of names and didn't get to mention everybody, but it's not because I didn't want to. It's just short timing.
We're getting old.
I just appreciate what you do, Dan, for the Sanger legacy, and appreciate your time and your effort, what you done with the school uh, football and wrestling. Uh, just want to thank you.
Yeah, appreciate it. Well, I always
Yeah.
people say that, and I always say the same thing. Pretty easy to do what I do when we have the history we have and the people we have and the communities and the schools. It's fun, and get to give back a little bit to the people that gave so much to us. So yeah, I'm gonna throw out a quick plug. Hall of Fame nights, August 29th. Gonna induct 6 new people or teams, and then hopefully see some of you guys there. August 30th, that next day, we're doing a 90th anniversary of Britt West Hancock wrestling. I was told they might lay the mat out just for decoration purposes, but I'm like, that's gonna lead to some matches. I think we need Nick Hartman versus Al DeWard part two from Hobo Golf a couple years ago. Um,
Right now, I'm winning, so I don't need to prove myself.
yeah. No, it'll be a good time. We're trying to get as many of the former state champs and runner-ups and teams back and individuals. And it's not just for wrestlers, it can be mat maids, cheerleaders, fans, parents. We're hoping to have a lot of people there. What we're doing is we're going to raise money for signage, the wrestling room slash the football locker room during the fall where you hang up your pads. Um, I've told Sanger a couple times, I said, Mark, no offense, but your nice little laminated pieces of papers that has all the state champs and runner-ups on the side on that bulletin board, we can do better than that. We're gonna make some nice glossy boards that we can update with football and wrestling accolade stuff. So we're gonna use this event to raise money for that and make that room look nice so that those kids that are currently in those rooms for football and wrestling are gonna look and say, I wanna get my name on that board someday too for going to state or being all state or state championship teams or whatever. So yeah. Anything else, fellas, you want to throw out there before we say go Eagles and get out of here?
No, we
Yeah.
like Ben said, we appreciate you, Dan, what you're doing for the community and bringing back old stories and everything like that. I'd say thanks to our parents for raising us right, getting us into the community, and providing us with a strong work ethic that has made an impression on all of our lives. So appreciate everything.
All right. Well, we'll see everybody
Hey,
next week with John Mallen.
hey Dan, one more thing. Whatever my dad donated, don't put under the four brothers, put Hartman family, would you?
Sounds good to me. I love it. You bet.
So
I was thinking that earlier. I'm like you're saying it, we talk about Coach Bob Sanger all the time. Well, Linda needs just as much accolade because of what she does. Your folks definitely was it 890 football games that they attended or whatever it was. Just crazy, crazy sport you guys have had. So yep, definitely. It's gonna be Hartman family. That's good. All right, fellas. Thanks. I appreciate it. And go Eagles.
Go Eagles.
Yep.
Go
Thank
Eagles.
you. Good.